And it really like shifted how I looked at working out, because instead
Yeah,
of it being a punishment now, like I realized it's a luxury to work out. Not everybody gets to do it.
absolutely.
What a shame that I was using it to punish myself.
All right, let's dive in. I mean, I already explained this to you, but basically, my goal with this podcast is just to kind of dig into the why behind why strength athletes decided to choose that path, like why we invest so much time into this hobby. And because I think a lot of people have a reason behind it, they're not just, bored and want to spend time at the gym.
Yeah.
So if you could just quickly like introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Hi, my name's Abigail Brosh. I'm 25 and I've been powerlifting, I guess, for a little over a year now. So I got into it kind of from some unconventional means, I guess, but my why is really important to me and why I do this. So I'm excited to share with everyone, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we'll start with like some quick icebreakers just
Okay.
to get the juices flowing. So first, rank the lifts SBD from
Okay.
top to least.
Number one, deadlift. Number two, bench.
Okay.
And least number three, squat. Just because it's, I mean, I don't know, number three and number one, like it's challenged me the most, but if they got rid of it, I would be okay.
Abolish squatting.
Yeah. Petition squats.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Short or long warm-ups?
Short.
Okay.
I
It's
like to
good.
just get started.
True athlete.
Yeah.
Barbell or accessories?
I do like accessories. That's probably the bodybuilder in me, though.
Yeah. It is fun to kind of push those sometimes
Yeah. When I
and really
start,
like feel the burn.
yeah. When I started, coach, I sent him all the accessories I was doing, and he was like, "Why are you doing all of that?" Like,
What what are you, a conjugate lifter? All right, so can you give kind of an overview of your background, your involvement in sports and being in the gym, training, all that?
yeah. So I started gymnastics when I was 4, and it was my whole life, my whole childhood. I did it up until I graduated high school. And I remember I would spend summers at the gym, like the whole day. I would pack my dinner, and after dinner, we would have strength training. And that was like my favorite part every summer, just because I really liked to push myself. So that was my whole identity growing up. But then in high school, I got put in this gym class called Bigger, Faster, Stronger. Um, it was like me and the football team, and I don't really know how I ended up in this class, but like all they wanted to do was bench all the time. And
Yeah.
I was okay, like I'll try this. And I ended up really liking it. And I don't know, I just kind of like got addicted from there. Like all I did was bench though. Like I totally lifted like a high school boy. Um, but yeah, I just really, really liked it. Like I was sad the days I didn't have gym. Um, and I even got a membership outside of school at like a retro fitness by me, so
Oh
that I
wow.
go bench in my free time. I occasionally deadlifted, but I never squatted, and that shows today. But yeah, so like between gymnastics and weightlifting, like I just loved having an outlet for myself. I never really understood until recently, like what about those things I liked so much, but I
Yeah.
knew I just loved those two things. Um, and then I went to college and I went to the Merchant Marine Academy, which is like a small federal service academy.
Where is
Uh,
that?
it's in Kings Point, New York.
Okay.
So like my first day of school was not like your normal college where your parents drop you off and you have all your stuff. Like I literally had a bag with like my socks and underwear. And I walk in this room and they put a number one on my hand, which meant like I was in first company. And like I immediately just start getting screamed at. You spend your summer just getting yelled at, like getting beaten down, drilling. And
Yeah.
after summer, like I kind of went through an identity crisis, I guess, after gymnastics. I didn't really have
Mm,
time to process during the summer, but after the summer, like it really hit me like I'm not the gymnast anymore. I'm just another person at this school and I don't really have anything. So I ended up just going to the gym every day after all my classes and I pretty much just benched because I didn't know what I was doing. Like nobody really ever taught me anything other than how to bench.
right.
Um, so I like quickly became known for that at school, like because I was a freshman girl, a plebe, they called us, and I was benching like 215, and it was like not normal, but
Right.
it came with like a lot of hate from the guys because I went to a really male dominated school. My graduating class was 300 people, and there were 25 women in my class.
Wow.
So it wasn't like a cool thing to lift weights. Like people called me manly, people made fun of my muscles. Like I was just like kind of beaten down for it. Like it wasn't celebrated and it made me feel really ashamed of it instead of like empowered.
Yeah.
Um, so from there, I got into like, I started doing cardio for the first time because I just was the brunt of so many like man jokes, steroid jokes. I just was sick of it. So I started doing cardio and like for the first time ever, I got compliments on how I looked instead of
Mm.
jokes about how masculine I was. Um, so that
And
was like,
what like time frame was this?
it
What
was
years?
my plebe year of college. So this was 2017 to 2018.
Okay.
I'm, I was really muscular and like just then getting into um, cardio, and like that was the start of a really downward spiral for me.
Hmm.
Um, I started to get really particular with what I ate. Um, I became obsessed with working out. I did cardio for an hour every day. I skipped lunch to do ab circuits, and then I lifted in the evenings. Um, I started like labeling foods as good and bad, and I was terrified of gaining weight, even though I had managed to get myself down to 90 pounds
Wow.
for a year of doing that. Um, I was never formally diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I definitely struggled with disordered eating, like even without a formal diagnosis.
Right.
I really just would not eat. I controlled everything. I ate and weighed myself obsessively. I body checked obsessively.
Mm.
I really just like became a shell of myself. And from there, you go to sea actually for 350 days at my school to
Okay.
graduate before you commission as an officer and go off and do whatever in the world. So, like at that point in time, I'm 90 pounds and I'm about to go on my first ship for 4 months in the Middle East. I'm 19 years old. Um, and I remember so vividly, like I stepped on my ship for the first time ever, and I had this, it's called a merchant mariner's credential. It's like my ID essentially to be on that ship.
Okay.
I had my weight on it and it said 145 pounds. And the captain sees this shell of a 90-pound girl and he like made a joke. He was like, well, that must be a misprint. And like it was printed when I weighed that much, like less than a year ago. So
Right.
like I'll never forget that. And like that was just a dark point in my life. Like I was with an all male crew. I was in the Middle East. I spent my first Christmas ever away from my family in Pakistan. And these guys were just like making so many jokes about how I wouldn't eat anything, making jokes about how I was exercising constantly. Um, there's like a saying at my school, like all the girls who go to sea gain weight from the ship food. And
Mm.
a lot of comments like, oh, she's just trying not to gain like the C15 or whatever. Um, so I really just, I don't know, like I cried myself to sleep every night at sea, like the first 4 months. And like I really just became a shell of myself. Like I don't know how else to say it, but I also was like receiving a lot of harassment, as you can probably guess, with a lot of men and
Yeah.
like defenseless girl. And like I just really did not stick up for myself. I didn't know how. Um,
At any point, did it kind of stick out to you? Maybe you went too far the opposite way, or were you still so deep in that thought process that you couldn't even dig yourself out?
yeah, that's a really good question. I think like I realized I had gone too far, but at that point I was so like pulled into this sickness that I also couldn't claw my way out.
Hmm.
And like I wanted to get better, but at the same time I was terrified of food at that point. Like
Right.
terrified. I didn't view myself as like a 90-pound skeleton. Like in my mind I really hated how I looked still, like thought I could still lose weight. So
Mhm.
but it did get to the point because I was exhausted all the time. My hair was falling out. My mental health was had never been worse. So I did get to the point where I was like, I don't even care anymore. Like I'm going to start eating because I can't do this to myself. So I started gaining weight back, still at sea for the first 4 months. And of course, I was starting to get a lot of comments on how I was getting big.
Can't win.
You just can't win. But I remembered like I went back to school after those first 4 months on my ship, and physically I looked healed. And a lot of people made comments to me like, wow, I was so worried about you before. You look so much better. I'm glad you're all better. Like,
Wow.
but mentally, I still was terrified of what I was eating. I still would go for runs as punishment for what I ate. Like, I looked better, but I was still just as lost as ever. And I kind of stayed in that limbo for the next year. And I went back to sea again for 8 months. And it was the same thing. Like, I weighed at this point, like maybe 120 pounds. Like, physically, you'd never know there was anything wrong with me. But mentally, like, I really would deem foods as like good and bad. And like, I would have to control the exact amount that when I would punish myself with working out. Like, working out wasn't fun like it was in high school when I took
Yeah.
that class. Like it really was a means to like punish myself. And like that stayed the same throughout my whole second sailing. Um, but I would say like a big turning point for me was my senior year. You get these jobs at school when you're a senior. Like the whole student body is called the regiment, and then we're broken up into battalions and companies.
Okay.
So they gave me this title of like the regimental fitness officer, which meant I was in charge of the whole student body, making sure they passed their BCA, which is like making sure you are within your weight standards for the Navy, and
Mhm.
also their PRTs, which is like their physical fitness test. I had to make sure that everybody passed, and if they failed, I had to train them to
Okay.
pass. Um, and I felt like insane imposter syndrome, I
Mm.
guess, because here I was in charge of all these people, and like I couldn't even eat a bowl of pasta without crying myself to sleep, you know? So
Yeah.
that was like, I don't know, it was a really good thing to happen to me, I think, because I ended up meeting my boyfriend Gabe, who I'm still with. He was working with me as my battalion fitness officer.
Okay.
And I just felt really safe confiding all these things in with him. So I
Mhm.
ended up talking to him about it, and like throughout our time working together and dating, he really helped me see like eating more wasn't just going to change my body like for the worse. Like it was actually going to help me live a more fulfilling life. And like
Yeah.
I deserve to have energy to laugh with my friends, and I deserve to have energy to do workouts that I like. And it was just like a really big turning point for me. Um, and I ended up getting into like a lot of podcasts that year, and just like following a lot of therapy pages, and like kind of scrubbing all my social media from people that made me feel worse about
Mm.
myself. And like
Yeah.
found myself in a place of like neutrality, I guess. I still am there where I'm not, my goal isn't ever to like look at my body and be like, I love this. I love how I look. Like that's not ever been my goal, and that's not where I am. Like where I am is just like, I don't care what my thoughts are on my body. It deserves to be nourished. All foods have a place. I need to fuel myself. And it really like shifted how I looked at working out, because instead
Yeah,
of it being a punishment now, like I realize it's a luxury to work out. Not everybody gets to do it.
absolutely.
What a shame that I was using it to punish myself when it really can add so much value to my life and be something that I enjoy. And I just like, I'm lucky to get to work out. I'm lucky to be able like to be healthy, to have time. Um, so I really, really just shifted my mindset with everything. And that was really great for me. So I graduated from college, and then, um, like I said, with that lifting class and gymnastics, like I just liked something about it. I didn't know what, but I was kind of searching for that again
Hmm.
after college. So I started bodybuilding, and a lot of people would think it didn't really trigger anything with the food or body image or my mental health. Like at that point, I'd made so many leaps and bounds at like just being neutral with everything. Like I was very objective with it all.
Okay.
It wasn't bad in that sense, but I definitely did not find what I was searching for. Like even the day I walked up on stage, I was like, I hate this. I'm very reserved. So like standing in a bikini on a stage, I was like, can I go home? Like this was a mistake.
Yeah.
I thought so badly that would be, because I thought like maybe it was just like competing in something is what I was looking for. So I was like, I don't know, maybe this is it. But I
Right.
knew I was never doing that again. And my
And you
sister,
competed physique?
no, I did figure. So
Figure.
the
Okay.
girl, the big backs, it was
Makes
fun.
sense.
Not, I don't know, I didn't find what I was looking for. And my sister started competing in powerlifting, I guess 2021, 2022.
Okay.
Um, and that's when I was going through my crisis of like, well, I like working out. I'm glad I get to work out, but like bodybuilding is not really giving me this like missing piece I was looking for, like gymnastics and lifting weights used to. And I was
Right.
like desperately searching for that. And she was like, why don't you try powerlifting? And finally, I just kind of gave in. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll give it a try. You could stop telling me to do this. Um, so I did, my coach has like a 15-week free program, Steve, and
Yeah.
I did that, and I finished the 15 weeks and I was hooked, and I didn't know what about it I liked so much. So I ended up hiring a coach from there, and it wasn't a great fit. So I ended up reaching out to Steve, and he took me, and I'm so grateful for that, because I feel like since then, like I've gotten so much clarity on like what that was that I was searching for.
Yeah.
Um, because I
What?
realized there's nothing that makes me feel more accomplished than doing something that seems impossible. Like even going to see, like I was 19 years old and away from my family in the Middle East, and I'm struggling with disordered eating. My mental health is at an all-time low. Um, and that seemed impossible to survive, and I did it. And powerlifting I kind of view the same way. um, I know that if I can survive 350 days of hell, like I really can do anything. And like that is my why. I want to prove to the 90-pound version of myself that couldn't take care of herself that I can do anything, and that I get to choose how I'm going to think of things. Like I get to have control over my mindset. I get to decide if something's going to break me or not. And I think like that's what I was searching for that whole time, was
Yeah.
an outlet for that, like an outlet to celebrate what my body can do instead of what it looks like, and an outlet for me to like actually push my body to its limits. And I think like my school at the Merchant Marine Academy and my gymnastics and powerlifting all have that in common. So it makes sense why, like, even though they're hard things to do, I guess I thrive off of them.
Yeah.
I know that's like a really roundabout way of getting to it, but I think all of that did have to happen to get me to powerlifting.
I agree. I think life in general, too, is just a bunch of building blocks that
Yeah.
help you get to your end state. And
Yeah.
the end state is never really an end state. It's
Right.
always constantly changing and adapting as you change and adapt.
Yeah.
It's always funny kind of growing up and realizing that
Yeah.
you're never just at that comfortable point. There's always room for
Yep.
improvement or things to learn about yourself.
Yeah. And I also think it's like, it's great the things that don't happen or the things that don't work out. Like, it's always been for a reason with me.
Yeah.
Like, in high school, applying to the Naval Academy and not getting in and being devastated. And now I view that as the best thing to happen to me because all these other things wouldn't have come into my life without that. And bodybuilding, not working out, I'd be the same. So I think all of that did have to happen for me to get here and like appreciate powerlifting how I do now. Just like I said, it's just a really great outlet for me mentally. Like I thrive pushing myself. I thrive being able to do something that seems impossible for me. Yeah, I'm gonna just keep chasing that, I guess. And I think I'm just getting started in powerlifting, so I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Like
And
what
already accomplished so much as well in such a little time.
thing? Yeah, I'm about to
If
do my.
you, yeah, second meet, nationals, no big deal. If you had to put your finger on one specific thing about powerlifting, what do you think it is that feels like you finally reached that point that you're satisfied for now?
I think it's because of what it's done for me mentally, honestly. Like I feel like I get to choose how I'm going to respond to things, and I think it's translated to my life outside of powerlifting too. Like I can have a bad lift and I'm not going to go home and mope about that and cry to Gabe. Like I get to choose to say, you know what, that was not great, but it's behind me, and all I have control over now is the next session and making it better. So that's definitely my favorite part. Just like mentally, what it's done for me, and like knowing that like I can only control what I can control, and the things that I can control are few and far between, but my mindset is one of them. And I just
Yep.
love,
Yeah, that's one of the variables that you actually can control.
yeah, like how cool is that? I get to choose how I'm going to respond to things. And
Right.
I just think it's great. And I think you could find that with another sport too. But for me, at least, it just really clicks with powerlifting. Like that's where I can, I don't know, thrive the most. So,
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy too that you were able to kind of get back to your original love of
yeah.
lifting and being exhilarated by it again. Sometimes it's hard when you lose that original fire for something. Trying to
Yeah.
get that back is a challenge,
Yeah. It's so
but
interesting.
I'm happy
Yeah,
for you that you're back.
me too. I think it's so interesting too because I feel like if you take out all the things that happen in the middle, like I was always meant to power lift. Like that's all I bench and deadlift. Like I hated squats because I was with all the football guys, but like that's all I would do. Like if you, I don't know, it just feels like I was meant to go through that, and I think I ended up right where I need to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm
And a
glad
sport
to
a
enjoy again.
sport that encourages you to be
Yeah,
able to survive, right?
yeah, and I just love that. Like nothing that I accomplish has to do with what I look like. You know, like
100%.
everybody is celebrated for the amazing things that their bodies can do. And I just think that's so great. Like, I'm not going to be remembered for what I looked like.
Yeah.
I just love that. I think it's a great sport.
Sorry, my grow lights just turned out. No, I agree. And not many people look good in a singlet, so you don't really have to worry about how you stack up
Yeah,
against everyone else.
no, exactly. But they're making more flattering cuts, so I do appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Keep going in that direction, everybody. Singlet manufacturers, if you're listening.
Yes, we're finally getting away from that square, like SpongeBob
Right.
shaped.
Men's cut is great.
Yeah, agreed. So you're feeling good, you're back to feeling like you're where you're supposed to be. Do you ever have bad days that you don't want to go to the gym, or days that you struggle to find that reason to go? And what do you do in those circumstances?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just reminding myself, like, I'm lucky to get to do this. Like, I think of like parents out there who don't have time between working full-time jobs and taking care of kids to find time to work out. I think of people who physically can't work out, who maybe can't afford to go to a nice powerlifting gym. Like,
Hmm.
it really is a luxury, and I'm blessed to be able to have that in my life. So I try and think of that, like, because there are definitely days where I don't want to go. I'm not feeling motivated. But yeah, if you like, I get to, like I said, I get to control how I'm going to think of it. And instead of feeling bad for myself that, oh, I have to go squat, I get to shift that and say, oh, I get to go squat, you
Yeah.
know? So I think really just understanding that I get to control how I'm going to think about it is the best way to change my perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything in the community as a whole that you wish you could change? If there was one thing you wish you could change?
Yes. If I could change one thing, it would be that someone else's success does not take away from yours.
Mm,
Like, a lot of people can't or won't clap for others. And that doesn't go for everyone. There's a lot of people that really will. But I think, like, going up to another strong man or woman in the gym, like, doesn't, and complimenting them doesn't take away from my strengths. And even, like, clapping for other people, like, that doesn't take away from anything I did. Like, even in 2 weeks I'm going to go compete, and regardless of where I place, my goals are to improve from my last meet, and that would be really great if a good placing came alongside with that. But at the end,
right.
I'd be proud if I improved and did my best. So when the primetime girls go after me, like, I'm not hoping anybody fails,
Right.
like, I think what they're all going to do is amazing, and I'm going to clap for them, and it doesn't take away from what I did. So I guess I would change that.
Yeah, I agree. I think people kind of project their own insecurities onto others,
Yeah.
and hopefully it's a learning experience, because
Yeah.
I will say that I found a lot of really positive people in the
Yes, for
community as
sure.
well, and they help me remember those things on some days where you might forget.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. I mean, we can't all every day think about it that level headed, so
Yeah.
it's tough, but I know you're like that too. That's why we kind of align in the gym. I
Yeah.
prefer people more like that than someone who is very comparative and unhappy for others' success.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's part of growing up. If that's where you are, that's okay. I'm not judging you.
Absolutely. With that being said, where do you think that powerlifting is headed, let's say, in the next 5 years? Where do you hope that you see powerlifting in 5 years?
Can I say the Olympics? Feel like everybody really wants to see the Olympics. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Really hard. I don't know. I guess I just want to see maybe a more organized
Hmm.
thing. Interpret that however you please.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think the more polished that we can get, and I think we've achieved that
yeah,
in the past few years. We're definitely working towards that.
yeah,
But the Olympics would be incredible.
yeah. But there's a World Cup until then,
Yeah.
if
We're
anyone.
We're
I've been,
making strides.
yeah, leaps and bounds. We have a World Cup. So,
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions that I had. Was there anything that you wanted to touch on that you feel like you didn't get to, or anything else that you want to leave off with?
I think I pretty much covered everything, but I guess I would leave it at like if you are struggling mentally with your food like I did, like I just hope you know like there's people to talk to. It's not a forever thing, and I hope everybody's as fortunate as I was to come out the other side stronger.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could always message me.
I'll put your information up if you're
Yeah,
open to that.
yeah. I'm a private account right now, but I might. I've been dabbling with going public. It's very scary to me. I've always been a
Put
private person. Like even sharing today was nerve wracking for me. Not that any of it's a secret, but like
yeah.
I definitely don't go out of my way to talk about myself unless asked. So
Yeah.
it's out of my comfort zone to share all of that. But I mean, if one person listens and feels seen, I guess, then
Definitely.
it'd be worth it for me. So
Yeah, I really appreciate you being open to
yeah,
kind of being a part of my vision and helping spread awareness and touch on some topics that I think are relevant to a lot of people
yeah.
and a lot of people can relate with, either personally or in people that they know. So I do really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thanks. And I love what you're doing. I think there's so many different reasons people have to powerlift, and it's not always to win first place and be the best, even though that'd be so great if that's one of the things that come with our whys.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm excited to hear everybody else's reasons and yours too, and I just think it's a really great thing. So I'm proud of you.
thank you. That means a
Great.
lot.